I stepped off the city bus 2 blocks from the university, my cap folded carefully under my arm to keep it from getting crushed. The morning air smelled like exhaust and rain-soaked pavement. Around me, graduates poured out of pristine SUVs and luxury sedans, their families trailing behind with cameras and flowers and the kind of excitement that fills spaces effortlessly. I walked alone, my gown bundled in my bag, my heels clicking against concrete still damp from the overnight storm. Behind me, I heard the distinct purr of an engine that cost more than most people's houses. I didn't need to turn around to know what it was. I'd heard my father describe it in detail for weeks. The leather interior, the custom paint, the way the doors closed with a sound that whispered wealth instead of shouting it. The Bentley Continental GT pulled up to the curb just ahead of me. Champagne gold, flawless, impossible to miss. My sister stepped out first, her dress perfectly pressed, her hair salon fresh. My mother followed, then my father, both of them beaming like they were arriving at a red carpet premiere. Vanessa saw me and waved, her smile bright and practiced. "Lily, you made it!" Made it. Like, I'd traveled across continents instead of 40 minutes on public transportation. My mother glanced at me, her expression flickering with something that might have been concern, or might have been embarrassment. "You took the bus?" "You told me to," I said quietly. "Well, there wasn't room in the car," my father said, not quite meeting my eyes. Vanessa needed space for her things. I looked at the Bentley. 4 seats. 5, if you counted the middle back. Vanessa's things consisted of a small purse. "It's fine," I said, because that's what I always said. Vanessa looped her arm through mine, chattering about how beautiful the campus looked, how excited she was to watch me walk across the stage, how she'd made sure to charge her phone so she could get good photos. She smelled like expensive perfume, the kind that came in bottles shaped like art. We walked toward the auditorium together, my family flanking me like I was the center of something important. But I could feel the weight of their attention drifting, always drifting, toward Vanessa, toward the car parked behind us, toward anything that glittered a little brighter than I did. Before I tell you how this day unraveled everything, I thought I knew about my family. Take a second to like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're listening from. And if you've ever felt like the spare part in your own story, share it below. You're not alone. My name is Lily Chen, and I'm 22 years old. For most of my life, I've understood my role in my family the way you understand background. Music in a movie, present, necessary but not meant to be noticed. Vanessa is 2 years younger than me, and from the moment she was born, the center of gravity in our house shifted toward her, not because she demanded it, though she learned to expect it, but because my parents saw something in her they wanted to cultivate. Charm, maybe. Confidence. The kind of presence that made people look twice. I was the responsible one. The one who studied hard. Kept my head down, earned scholarships. Because my parents made it clear early on that their resources were finite and already allocated. Vanessa got piano lessons, dance classes, private tutors. I got library cards and hand-me-down textbooks. They framed it as fairness. Vanessa needed more support, they said. She wasn't as naturally academic. She required investment. I was self-sufficient, capable, the kind of child who didn't need much. And I believed them. For years, I believed that needing less made me worth less. The Bentley had arrived 3 weeks before my graduation. A gift for Vanessa's 20th birthday, delivered with a bow the size of a small child and a photographer hired to capture her reaction. My parents posted the photos everywhere. Captions about celebrating milestones and supporting dreams. I'd been in my apartment when I saw the posts. The small studio I rented near campus, paid for with money, I earned working 2 jobs while finishing my degree in computer science. I stared at the photos for a long time, trying to identify the feeling sitting heavy in my chest. Not jealousy, exactly. Something quieter. Something that felt like finally understanding an equation I'd been solving wrong my entire life. I called my mother that night and asked if they'd be able to give me a ride to graduation. It was an hour away, and I didn't own a car. She hesitated, then said she'd have to check with my father. He called back the next day. "The Bentley only seats 4 comfortably, sweetheart. And we're bringing Vanessa, obviously. She's so excited to see you graduate. Can you take an Uber? We'll reimburse you." They didn't reimburse me. I didn't ask. Instead, I took the bus. The same route I'd taken dozens of times to get to campus. And I told myself it didn't matter. Graduation was about the degree, not the arrival. About what I'd built, not how I got there. But walking into that auditorium, watching other families cluster around their graduates with flowers and pride and the kind of attention that didn't need to be earned, I felt the years of small dismissals stack up into something I couldn't ignore anymore. We found seats near the middle. My mother fussed with her phone, angling for the best photo spot. My father checked his watch. Vanessa scrolled through social media, occasionally showing me posts from people I didn't know. "Your hair looks nice," my mother said absently, glancing at me. "Thanks." I'd done it myself that morning, in the bathroom mirror of my studio, with a straightener I'd bought on sale 2 years ago. "Vanessa's stylist is amazing," she continued, reaching over to touch my sister's perfectly styled waves. "We should get you an appointment sometime." "Maybe," I said. The ceremony started. Names were called. I watched classmates walk across the stage to thunderous applause. Families standing, cheering, making sure their pride was visible from every angle. When my name was called, I stood and walked the distance alone. I heard my mother's voice, a polite cheer. The kind you give because it's expected. My father clapped. Vanessa waved. And then it was over. I accepted my diploma, smiled for the photographer I'd never see again, and walked back to my seat. Afterward, outside in the sun, families took photos. My mother gathered us together, positioning Vanessa in the center. "Smile, everyone." The photo was taken. My mother checked it, frowned, adjusted us, took another. 3 more tries before she was satisfied. "Beautiful," she said, showing my father. In the photo, Vanessa glowed. I stood slightly to the side, my smile fixed, my eyes tired. "Can we get one of just Lily?" my father asked, almost as an afterthought. My mother took 2 quick shots. "Got it. Okay, let's head to lunch." Vanessa picked the restaurant. Of course she did. We walked back toward the parking lot, and I slowed my pace, letting them move ahead. I watched the Bentley gleam in the sunlight, watched Vanessa climb into the back seat, watched my parents settle in like they belonged in a car that costs more than my entire education. My mother turned back. "Lily, are you coming?" "There's no room," I said. She blinked. "What?" "You said there wasn't room. So I'll meet you there." My father looked uncomfortable. "Lily, don't be dramatic. We can squeeze—" "It's fine," I said. "I'll take the bus." I turned and walked away before they could argue, before I had to see whether they'd actually make room or let me go. I already knew the answer. At the bus stop, I pulled out my phone. Notifications filled the screen. Work emails, messages from professors, a reminder about a meeting scheduled for Monday. I scrolled past them all and opened my banking app, the one connected to accounts my family knew nothing about. The balance stared back at me, steady and substantial, built over 4 years of internships at tech companies that paid better than my parents imagined, of freelance coding projects that turned into contracts, of careful investments that had grown faster than I'd expected. I'd graduated debt-free. I owned my car, a modest sedan. I kept parked 2 blocks from my apartment because I preferred walking. I had a job offer from a company my father had mentioned wanting to invest in once, back when he thought it was too risky. I had built something they'd never bothered to ask about, and I'd done it on a bus route they thought I rode because I had no other choice. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "We're at the restaurant." "Where are you?" I looked up as the bus pulled to the curb, its doors hissing open. I thought about my sister sitting in butter-soft leather, about my parents choosing her comfort over my presence, about 22 years of being the one who didn't need much. And I realized something that made my hands steady and my breath, even for the first time all day. They were right. I didn't need much. I didn't need them at all. I stepped onto the bus, took a seat by the window, and started typing a message I'd been composing in my head for years. But before I sent it, I needed to make one stop. There was something at my apartment. Something I'd been saving for a moment exactly like this. And once my family saw it, the story they'd been telling themselves about who I was would collapse so completely they'd never be able to rebuild it. The bus lurched forward, and I watched the university disappear behind me. All those families still celebrating in the parking lot, still taking photos, still seeing each other. I pulled up my messages and typed a quick response to my mother. Something came up. "Go ahead without me." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, her response came through. "Lily, this is your graduation lunch. Don't be silly. We'll wait." I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my work email and confirmed Monday's meeting. The CEO wanted to discuss my transition from intern to full-time senior developer, a position that came with a salary my parents would assume was a typo if they ever saw it. They wouldn't see it. They'd never asked about my internships, never questioned how I paid my rent, never wondered why. I worked such long hours for what they assumed was college credit and pizza money. I'd told myself for years that I kept quiet about my success because I was humble, because I didn't need validation, because money wasn't what mattered. But sitting on that bus, watching the city roll past, I understood the truth. I'd kept quiet because some part of me was still waiting for them to ask, still hoping they'd notice, still believing that if I proved myself enough, worked hard enough, needed little enough, eventually they'd look at me the way they looked at Vanessa. But they never would, not because I hadn't earned it, but because they'd decided long ago who deserved their attention, and I wasn't her. The bus stopped 3 blocks from my apartment. I climbed off, diploma tucked under my arm, and walked the familiar route home. My building was old, the kind with radiators that clanked, and neighbors who played music too loud on weekends. My parents had visited once when I first moved in, and my mother had smiled tightly and said, "Well, it's a start." She didn't know I owned the building. All 6 units. Purchased 2 years ago when the previous owner needed to sell quickly, and I had enough saved. From my first major freelance contract to make a cash offer, the rent I collected from the other units more than covered my expenses. I lived here because it was practical, because it kept me grounded, because wealth that stayed quiet was wealth that lasted. I unlocked my apartment and set my graduation gown on the chair by the door. The space was small but mine, decorated with furniture I'd chosen, books I actually read, a desk setup that would make any developer jealous. 3 monitors, ergonomic everything, a coding environment I'd built from scratch. I walked to my closet and pulled out the garment bag. I'd hung there 2 months ago. Inside was a dress I'd bought for today, for the graduation lunch I'd assumed I'd be attending. Deep blue, simple, elegant, the kind of thing Vanessa would have called too plain, but that I knew looked perfect on me. I'd also bought something else that day. Something I hadn't planned on. Something that had felt reckless and justified all at once. I pulled the second garment bag from the back of the closet, unzipped it slowly, and looked at what hung inside. My phone buzzed. Another text from my mother. "Lily, we're ordering appetizers. Please come." Then one from my father. "Your mother is upset. This is childish." And finally, Vanessa. "Come on, Lil, everyone's asking where you are." It's awkward. Awkward for them? Not hurtful, not concerning, just awkward. I put the phone face down on my desk and changed out of my graduation outfit. The dress fit perfectly, tailored to my measurements by someone who actually listened when I described what I wanted. I did my makeup carefully, taking my time with each step, watching my reflection transform from tired, graduate to someone who knew exactly what she was worth. Then I pulled the second item from the garment bag. It was a jacket. Not just any jacket, a custom piece from a designer Vanessa followed obsessively on Instagram, the kind of thing that required a waiting list and connections and money most people would consider obscene for outerwear. I'd seen her show my mother photos of it dozens of times, heard her hint that it would make a perfect birthday gift. My parents had bought her a Bentley instead. I'd bought myself the jacket. Not because I needed it. Not even because I particularly wanted it, but because I could. Because I'd earned it. Because for once, I wanted something expensive and impractical and completely, utterly mine. I slipped it on. It fit like it had been designed for me because it had been. My phone rang. My mother, calling now instead of texting. I let it go to voicemail, waited for the notification, then listened. "Lily, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is unacceptable. It's your graduation day. Your father paid for this lunch reservation weeks ago. The least you can do is show up and be grateful. Vanessa canceled plans to be here for you. We all did. So please, stop whatever this tantrum is and get here. We're at Marcella's on 5th. You know where it is." I did know where it was. Marcella's was the restaurant I'd recommended to my mother 3 months ago when she'd asked where we should go for graduation lunch. I'd eaten there twice, both times on dates with someone I'd briefly seen from work. It was beautiful, expensive, the kind of place that required reservations and had a dress code. I'd also done the consulting work that rebuilt their reservation system 2 years ago. The owner, Anthony Marcella, still sent me a bottle of wine every Christmas. I saved the voicemail and opened my contacts. scrolling to a name I hadn't called in weeks. The phone rang twice before he answered. Lily, congratulations on graduation. I saw the LinkedIn post. Thanks, Anthony. I kept my voice steady, professional. I have a favor to ask. Anything. You saved my business, name it. I told him what I needed. There was a pause, then a low whistle. You're sure about this? Completely. All right, then. Give me 20 minutes to set it up. And Lily? This is going to be spectacular. I hung up and looked at myself in the mirror one more time. The girl looking back at me wasn't the one who'd taken the bus that morning. She wasn't the one who'd spent years making herself smaller, so everyone else could feel bigger. She was someone who'd built an entire life in the spaces they never bothered to look. I called a car service, not an Uber, the private company I used for client meetings. The driver knew me, greeted me by name, held the door. The interior smelled like leather and subtle cologne. Nothing like the bus. Nothing like sitting in the back while Vanessa took the good seat. Marcella's on 5th, I said. Of course, Miss Chen. The drive took 12 minutes. I spent them breathing slowly, centering myself, remembering every small dismissal, every time I'd been told I didn't need what Vanessa got. Every moment I'd swallowed my hurt because it was easier than fighting. I wasn't fighting now. I was just showing up. The car pulled to the curb in front of Marcella's. Through the windows, I could see my family at a table near the center, visible to everyone, exactly where they'd want to be. Vanessa was laughing at something, her hand gesturing dramatically. My mother was smiling. My father was looking at the wine list. The driver opened my door. Should I wait, Ms. Chen? No, I said. I won't be long. I stepped onto the sidewalk and the valets at the door straightened immediately. One of them, Marcus, had helped me test the new reservation system. He grinned when he saw me. Anthony said you were coming. Everything's ready. Thanks, Marcus. I walked through the doors, past the host stand where Anthony himself stood waiting, and into the dining room where my family sat, completely unaware that the lunch they'd planned was about to become something entirely different. Anthony caught my eye and gave a subtle nod. I walked toward my family's table, my heels clicking softly against the polished floor. A few heads turned, the way they always did when someone walked in wearing something that cost more than their rent. I kept my expression neutral, my pace measured. My mother saw me first. Her mouth opened slightly, her eyes dropping to the jacket, then back to my face. She blinked, like she was trying to reconcile the daughter she knew with the woman standing in front of her. Lily? Her voice carried confusion and something else. You came. I did. I stopped beside the table, not sitting. Sorry I'm late. Vanessa's eyes were locked on my jacket. I watched recognition dawn slowly, then disbelief. Is that the Rousseau piece from the spring collection? I finished. Yes. Her face flushed. How did you— those have a 2-year waiting list. I know someone. I kept my tone light, casual, the way she always did when she talked about things I couldn't afford. My father cleared his throat. That must have cost— It did, I said simply. An uncomfortable silence settled over the table. My mother recovered first, gesturing to the empty chair. Well, sit down, honey. We already ordered appetizers. We got you the salad you usually get. Actually, I need to talk to you about something first. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward them. I wanted to show you this. My father leaned forward, his eyes scanning the numbers. His expression shifted from polite interest to confusion to something I'd never seen before, shock. This is your account? One of them. There's more than— He stopped, calculating. Lily, where did this money come from? Work, I said. The internships you thought were unpaid? They weren't. The student jobs I worked? Those were contracted development projects. The late nights I told you were studying? I was building software for companies you've heard of. Vanessa grabbed the phone, her eyes widening. This can't be real. It is. I took the phone back gently. I've been working in tech since sophomore year. Freelance at first, then contract positions, then a full-time offer that starts Monday. Senior developer role, 6 figures base plus equity. My mother's hand went to her throat. You never said anything. You never asked. The words came out quieter than I intended, but they landed hard. We thought— My father started, then stopped. You thought I was struggling, I finished. Living paycheck to paycheck in that tiny apartment, taking the bus because I couldn't afford anything else. But I own that building, Dad, all 6 units. And I don't take the bus because I have to. I do it because it's practical. Vanessa's face had gone pale. You own your building? I also own a car. A Tesla, actually. I just keep it in a garage. 2 blocks away because street parking is terrible. I paused. I bought it the same week you got your Bentley. The silence that followed was absolute. Around us, other diners continued their meals, oblivious to the small implosion happening at table 12. My mother finally spoke, her voice small. Why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see if you'd notice. If you'd ask. If you'd ever look at me the way you look at Vanessa and wonder if there was more to me than the quiet daughter who didn't need anything. Lily. My father's tone was wounded. That's not fair. Isn't it? You bought Vanessa a $100,000 car for her birthday and told me there wasn't room in it to drive me to my own graduation. You spent 20 years telling me I was self-sufficient while you handed her everything. And you never once asked if maybe I was working so hard because I was trying to prove I mattered too. You do matter, my mother said desperately. Of course you matter. Then why did I take the bus this morning? No one answered. Anthony appeared beside the table, his timing perfect. Miss Chen, your table is ready. My family looked up at him, confused. My father frowned. We already have a table. Not you, sir, Anthony smiled politely. Miss Chen has a private reservation. For one, I watched understanding cross their faces in stages. My mother's mouth opened. Vanessa looked between Anthony and me, piecing it together. You know the owner, my father said slowly. I rebuilt his entire reservation and point-of-sale system 2 years ago, I said. He's a friend. Anthony gestured toward the back of the restaurant. The owner's table, Ms. Chen. Best view in the house. And I took the liberty of preparing the tasting menu you designed for us last spring. Designed? My mother's voice cracked slightly. Lily consults with us on occasion, Anthony explained smoothly. Her palate is exceptional. Several of our most popular dishes came from her suggestions. I met my mother's eyes. I've been coming here for 2 years. Mom, you recommended it for my graduation lunch 3 months ago. I didn't tell you I'd already been here a dozen times. I wanted to see if you'd ask how I knew about it. You never said... I never say a lot of things. I picked up my purse. I'm going to have lunch now, alone. You're welcome to finish your meal. It's already paid for. My father stood abruptly. You paid for this? I called ahead this morning. Told Anthony to put your table on my account. I looked at each of them in turn. Consider it my graduation gift to myself. Buying lunch for the family that couldn't make room for me in their car. Lily, please. My mother reached for my hand. Don't do this. Sit with us. Let's talk about this. We are talking about it. I'm just done pretending it doesn't hurt. I turned to follow Anthony, but Vanessa's voice stopped me. You're really going to eat alone? On your graduation day? I looked back at her. I've been alone for a long time, Vanessa. I'm just the only one who noticed. Anthony led me through the restaurant to a table, tucked in an alcove with windows, overlooking the city. Private, quiet, with a view that made the whole world feel small and manageable. He pulled out my chair personally. I prepared something special, he said quietly. Every dish you've ever recommended, plus a few surprises. This meal is on the house, Lily. You've earned it 1,000 times over. Thank you, Anthony. He left me with a menu I didn't need and a glass of wine I definitely did. I sat alone at a table meant for celebrations, looking out at a city I'd conquered in ways my family would never understand, and felt something unexpected. Relief. I pulled out my phone. 16 missed calls now. Messages piling up. I scrolled past them all to a contact I'd saved but never used. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the therapist my friend had recommended. Months ago when I'd first admitted that maybe my family's treatment wasn't normal. I'd made an appointment, then canceled it, telling myself I was being dramatic. I typed out a message now. Hi, Dr. Martinez, I'm ready to talk. Can we schedule that appointment? The response came within minutes. Absolutely. I have an opening Tuesday at 4. Does that work? Perfect. Thank you. I set the phone down as the first course arrived. A delicate arrangement of ingredients. I'd suggested to Anthony last year when he was revamping the spring menu. It was beautiful, thoughtful, exactly what I'd envisioned. Behind me, I heard footsteps. I didn't turn around. I knew who it would be. My father's voice came from just over my shoulder. Lily. I took a sip of wine, let it settle, then turned slightly. Yes? He stood there, looking older than he had that morning, diminished somehow. Can I sit? This table is for one. Please. His voice cracked. Just for a minute. I gestured to the chair across from me. He sat heavily, his hands folding and unfolding on the white tablecloth. I didn't know, he said finally, about any of it. The money, the job, the building. You never told us. Would it have changed anything? I asked quietly. If you'd known I was successful, would you have made room in the car this morning? He flinched. That's not fair. Answer the question. He was quiet for a long moment. Then barely audible, I don't know. That's what I thought. I set down my wine glass. Dad, I spent 22 years being the daughter who didn't need anything, so Vanessa could be the one who needed everything. I put myself through school, built a career, bought property, became someone I'm proud of. And you never noticed because I didn't do it loudly enough. We're proud of you. Are you? Or are you just surprised? Because those aren't the same thing. He looked down at his hands. What do you want from us? I wanted you to see me, I said. Without me having to buy a designer, jacket, or show you a bank statement, or humiliate myself by begging for a ride. I wanted you to look at me the way you look at her and think, that's my daughter and she matters. You do matter. Then prove it. I met his eyes. Not right now. Not because I showed you the money and you feel guilty. Prove it by doing the work to understand why I had to hide who I was to survive this family. Tears formed in his eyes. Lily, I'm sorry. I know. But sorry doesn't give me back the years I spent invisible. It just means you finally see what I lost. He sat there for another moment, then stood slowly. Your mother wants to talk to you. Not today. I turned back to my meal. Today is mine. He left without another word. I ate slowly, tasting every carefully prepared course, watching the city move below me, feeling the weight of years finally lifting. I didn't go back to their table. I didn't answer the calls or respond to the messages. I finished my meal, thanked Anthony personally, and walked out of the restaurant into afternoon sunlight that felt different somehow. Outside, a car was waiting. Not the car service I'd called. A Tesla midnight blue polished to perfection. Marcus, the valet, held the keys. Anthony said you might want your car brought around. Ms. Chen took the liberty of calling your garage. I stared at it. This car I'd bought and barely driven. This symbol of success I'd kept hidden in a parking garage because I didn't want to explain it. Thank you, Marcus. I took the keys, slipped behind the wheel, and felt the door close with a sound that was nothing like the bus. Nothing like being told there wasn't room. I sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, looking at my family through the restaurant windows. They were still at their table, heads together, talking in the urgent way people do when something has broken, and they're trying to figure out what pieces might still fit together. My mother was crying. My father had his arm around her. Vanessa sat very still, staring at something on her phone, her expression unreadable. I could go back inside. I could smooth this over, make it easier for them, be the daughter who didn't need much and therefore didn't ask for much. I'd done it for 22 years. It would be easy to do it for one more day. Instead, I started the engine and pulled away from the curb. I drove with no destination in mind, just letting the city guide me through familiar streets that looked different from behind this wheel. The sun was beginning its slow descent, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. My phone buzzed continuously in my purse. I let it. Eventually, I found myself at the parking garage where I kept the car, pulling into my assigned spot on the 3rd floor. I turned off the engine and sat in the silence, the kind that feels full instead of empty. My phone buzzed again. I finally pulled it out. 43 missed calls, 62 text messages, 3 voicemails. I scrolled through the messages. My mother, frantic and apologetic. My father, asking me to come back, to talk, to give them a chance to explain. Vanessa, her messages shorter, confused, hurt in a way that felt genuine but didn't quite land. And then, at the bottom, a message from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Lily. This is James from Advanced Systems. We met at the tech conference last month. I heard it was your graduation day. Congratulations. Few of us are grabbing drinks at Meridian if you want to celebrate with people who actually appreciate what you've built. No pressure. Just wanted you to know you have options. I stared at the message. James, the lead architect from the company I'd be joining Monday. I'd spent 2 hours talking with him about system design at a conference. My parents didn't know I'd attended. He'd offered me the job 3 weeks later. I typed back. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Then I opened a new message to my mother. I need space. Please don't call or text for a while. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I sent it before I could second-guess myself. The drive to Meridian took 15 minutes. It was a rooftop bar in the financial district, the kind of place where people my age celebrated promotions and closed-year deals and built networks that turned into careers. I'd been here twice before, both times feeling slightly out of place, like an imposter in borrowed clothes. Tonight, walking in wearing a jacket that cost more than I used to make in a month, I felt different. Not like I belonged exactly, but like I'd earned the right to decide where I belonged. James spotted me immediately and waved me over to a group clustered near the railing. 5 people I recognized from the conference, all around my age, all brilliant in ways that had nothing to do with who their parents were or what car they drove. Lily! James handed me a drink. The graduate. How does it feel? Complicated, I said honestly. A woman named Rachel, who I'd talked to about database optimization, laughed. Family thing? How did you know? Graduation days are either perfect or disasters. There's no middle ground. She raised her glass. To surviving them either way. We drank and I felt something in my chest loosen. These people didn't know about the bus or the Bentley or the years of being invisible. They knew me as the developer who'd rebuilt 3 major systems before graduating, who'd contributed to open source projects that had been downloaded thousands of times, who'd solved problems they'd been stuck on. They knew me for what I'd built, not what I lacked. We talked for hours. About work, about the industry, about projects we were excited for. No one asked about my family. No one wondered why I was here instead of at some traditional graduation dinner. They just made space for me at the table and filled my glass when it got low. Around 9, my phone rang. My father again. I declined the call and set the phone face down. James noticed. You okay? Yeah, I said. I think I am. Family can be complicated, he said carefully, especially when they don't understand what we do. It's not that they don't understand, I said quietly. It's that they never asked. He nodded, understanding in a way that didn't require explanation. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're joining our team. You're going to do incredible things. I already have, I said. The words felt strange, unfamiliar, like a language I was just learning to speak. I just need to start believing it. I left the bar around 11, declining offers to share a ride, wanting the quiet of driving myself home. The city was beautiful at night, all lit windows and possibility. I took the long way, past the university where I'd walked across the stage that morning, past the restaurant where I'd eaten alone, past streets. I'd walked when I thought being invisible was the same as being strong. My apartment building looked different when I pulled up. Not smaller or shabby, just mine. The building I owned in the city I'd conquered, in the life I'd built one careful decision at a time. I took the stairs to my floor, unlocked my door, and stepped into a space that had never asked me to be anything other than exactly who I was. The graduation gown was still draped over the chair where I'd left it. I picked it up, folded it carefully, and set it on a shelf. Tomorrow I'd frame the diploma. Tonight I just needed to breathe. I changed into comfortable clothes, made tea, and finally checked my voicemails. The first was my mother, her voice thick with tears. Lily, please call me back. I don't understand what happened. We love you. We've always loved you. Please don't shut us out like this. The second was my father. Your mother is devastated. I know you're angry, and maybe you have a right to be. But this is still your family. We deserve a chance to talk about this properly. The third was Vanessa. Her voice was quieter, uncertain. Lily, I'm sorry. I don't really know what I'm apologizing for, but I know something's really wrong. Call me when you can, please. I set the phone down and looked out my window at the city below, thinking about the family I'd left at that restaurant, trying to piece together a version of me that made sense with the daughter they thought they knew. I couldn't help them do that. Not anymore. Over the next 2 weeks, I didn't call back. I responded to texts with brief messages. I'm fine. I need time. Please respect that. I started my new job, threw myself into code and problems that had solutions, built systems that worked because they followed rules that made sense. My mother showed up at my apartment once. I didn't let her in. We talked through the door for 10 minutes, her voice pleading, mine steady. When she finally left, I heard her crying in the hallway, and I felt something crack in my chest, but I didn't open the door. Vanessa tried a different approach. She sent me photos of the Bentley with a caption, "Thinking about selling it. Doesn't feel right anymore." I didn't respond. 3 weeks after graduation, my father sent an email. No subject line, just a message. "Lily, I've been thinking about what you said. About how we never asked. You're right. We didn't. We assumed you were fine because you never complained. We assumed you didn't need support because you never asked for it. We assumed a lot of things, and all of them were wrong. I don't expect you to forgive us. I just want you to know I finally see it. And I'm sorry it took losing you to make me look." I read it 3 times. Then I saved it and closed my email. A month later, I agreed to meet my mother for coffee. Neutral ground, a cafe halfway between my apartment and their house. She arrived early, already sitting at a corner table when I walked in, her hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't touched. She looked older, tired. When she saw me, her eyes filled immediately. "Thank you for coming," she said. I sat down across from her. I needed time to figure out what I wanted from this. "And did you?" "I think so." I took a breath. "I don't want to cut you out of my life. But I can't go back to being invisible. I can't be the daughter who doesn't need anything while Vanessa gets everything. If we're going to have a relationship, it has to be different." "How?" Her voice was small. "Tell me how to fix this." "You can't fix it, Mom. You can only build something new. And that starts with you understanding that I'm not angry because you didn't know I was successful. I'm hurt because you never wondered. You never asked what my life was like, what I was working on. If I needed support even if I didn't ask for it." Tears ran down her face. "I thought I was being respectful. Giving you space. Letting you be independent. I was independent because I had to be," I said quietly. "Not because I wanted to be." We talked for 2 hours. Not solutions, not apologies that would make everything better. Just honest conversation about years of small hurts that had accumulated into this enormous distance. When we left, she hugged me and I let her. And it felt like a beginning, not an ending. It took 6 more months before I had dinner at their house again. Vanessa had sold the Bentley, bought something practical, gone back to school for a degree she actually wanted instead of the one that looked good on Instagram. My parents were trying awkwardly to ask questions and actually wait for answers. It wasn't perfect. Some things would never be perfect. But it was honest, and that mattered more. One evening, my father pulled me aside after dinner. "I want to show you something." He led me to his study and pulled out a framed photo. It was from my graduation day, one of the quick shots my mother had taken. I was standing alone, diploma in hand, eyes tired but proud. "I put this on my desk," he said. "I look at it every morning. It reminds me of what I almost lost because I wasn't paying attention." I looked at the photo, at the version of myself who'd taken the bus that morning, who'd walked into that restaurant alone, who'd been brave enough to stop accepting crumbs. "I'm proud of you," he said. I should have said it that day. I should have said it 1,000 times before that. But I'm saying it now. I'm proud of who you are and what you've built. "Thank you," I said. And I meant it. I still drive the Tesla. I still live in my small apartment. Though I've renovated it beautifully. I still take the bus sometimes, because I like the rhythm of it, the reminder of where I came from and how far I've traveled. But now when my family asks how I'm doing, they actually wait for the answer. They know about my work, my goals, my life. They see me. And I learned something crucial that graduation day. Sitting alone in a restaurant, eating a meal, I'd earned with work they'd never acknowledged. You teach people how to treat you not just by what you accept, but by what you finally refuse to carry. If you've ever been the child who needed less so someone else could have more, if you've ever been invisible in your own family, if you've ever had to choose between being seen and being comfortable, I want you to know this. Your worth doesn't come from how little you need. It comes from who you are when you finally let yourself take up space. Comment below and tell me your story. Where are you listening from? What did you build while no one was watching? And subscribe because there are more stories about finding your voice, setting boundaries, and learning that sometimes the biggest success is simply refusing to disappear. Because the bus wasn't the problem. It was never about the bus. It was about being told there wasn't room, and finally believing I deserved a vehicle of my own.